Welcome back, Sebastian here, and time for my power rankings for the 2023 Formula One Mexican Grand Prix. So, starting right away with 20th place, I wonder, did we get a new driver in 20th place? No, we didn't. It is same as last week, Sergio Perez. You know, after qualifying, I was thinking maybe if Sergio Perez has a good race, gets on the podium, gets a good result, he would move up, quite a bit in my power rankings. But nope. First corner, move that was way too aggressive, takes himself out, ruins any hope of getting points, damages the car heavily, couldn't continue the race despite it being his home Grand Prix, and definitely squashed any hopes of moving up on my power rankings too. So Sergio Perez stays in 20th place. Now, 19th, moving down one position, is Logan Sargent. Wasn't a bad weekend, but that being said, not a particularly good weekend either. Teammate got himself some points, while Sargent was basically trundling around towards the back, fighting with the drivers at the bottom. I don't think qualifying was terrible, but that being said, not as good as his race pace last weekend. Number 18, also dropping one spot, is Kevin Magnussen. So for Magnussen, obviously he had a massive crash this morning as of recording this video during the Grand Prix, but that being said, the crash wasn't his fault. It was a suspension failure. That being said, the race, neither qualifying nor the race were particularly spectacular, so I decided to move Magnussen down one place. And you can kind of see where this is going, but it's not that any of these drivers were particularly bad, it's just one driver moved up quite a lot. Number 17, also dropping one spot, Lance Stroll. Qualifying, not particularly good. Alonso got into Q2, he got knocked down in Q3 in Q1. So for Stroll, qualifying again continues to be a bit of a struggle. The Grand Prix was a bit better, was faster than Alonso, but I suspect Alonso must have had something completely, his car must have been completely broken for Stroll to be that much quicker than him in the races. That being said, wasn't an awful weekend for Stroll, but still I'm moving him down one spot. Now, number 16. Again, moving down one spot for Zhou. So-so weekend. Got into Q3, but got out-qualified by his teammate Bottas. In the race, wasn't particularly fast, but wasn't that far off his teammate's pace either. I don't actually remember the order that they finished in, but I do know that the two Alfa Romeos were very close. Number 15, probably one of the biggest losers of the weekend, dropping down 4 spots, is Yuki Tsunoda. So this weekend already was kind of on the back foot, taking an engine penalty starting from the back. I don't think AlphaTauri quite knew how good the car would be this weekend. Otherwise, I don't think they would have chosen this weekend to take that penalty. But that being said, the weekend was already compromised from that, and that wasn't Tsunoda's fault or anything. But Saturday, Sunday, Grand Prix weekend, of course, he had to pay. He he heard his strategy a bit, getting that lockup, trying to overtake Magnussen, led to him pitting quite early. But then benefited quite a bit under this with the red flag. Was able to change his tires during the red flag period, not lose the 20-odd seconds that he would have. And this brought him basically all the way up into the points, which was, a good stroke of fortune on AlphaTauri's part. But that being said, it was time for Tsunoda to capitalize it. He had some good pace, but then, battling Oscar Piastri went way too aggressive, almost quite reminiscent of the move that Perez did on the first lap. Tried to go around the outside of Piastri, cut in too tightly, basically hit the left rear of his car with the front-ish end of Piastri's car and went spinning around down the escape road. But massive waste of points for Tsunoda. Could have gotten 4 points, which would have been massive for Alfa Romeo or AlphaTauri in what is now an actual battle with the Alfa Romeos for 8th in the Constructors Championship. They're, I believe, level on, 18 points, I want to guess. Well, let's see, Ricciardo is 6. Actually, no. Let's see, 8. Yeah, it's 8 and 8, so 16 points. They're level 1. But, not a great weekend for Tsunoda. Number 14, probably one of the best drivers of this weekend, moving up 4 positions. No, that can't be right. Moving up 5 positions, yes, moving up from 19th last weekend is Daniel Ricciardo. Excellent qualifying session. Looked like he might have been able to get had pace for the front row before the Ferraris magically showed up in Q3. And then in the race, I think did the best he could. I kind of figured that the AlphaTauri wouldn't have the race pace that they did in qualifying, wouldn't be able to compete with the likes of the Mercedes, the McLarens, probably the Ferraris as well. But still, I do think Ricciardo did the best he could. Got 6 points, which were so important for AlphaTauri. So great weekend and great result for Ricciardo. Number 13, dropping down 1 position, is Valtteri Bottas. So for Bottas, not a fantastic weekend. Qualifying was pretty good. Got himself up into the points positions. Qualified in the points positions. In the race, wasn't really anywhere close to the points at all during the race. And I've moved him down because I've moved one driver up who I think had a really good weekend, doesn't have points to show for it, but I do think they were very, very close to getting points. Now, number 12, the driver who knocked Bottas down 1 spot is Nico Hülkenberg. So for Hülkenberg, qualified I think got himself up into the Q2 range, didn't get into Q3. That being said, had a really good start, was up in the points positions, and was doing a real excellent job defending from the cars behind Gasly in the first half of the race, Ocon second half of the race. Neither driver were really able to attack Hülkenberg. But that being said, unfortunately, the Haas still is a tire shredder, and Hülkenberg could only do so much before the wheels basically fell off the bus. He dropped down the order quite a bit at the end, but that being said, was very, very close to his first non-sprint points since Australia, which seemed like a long, long time ago. But still, I do think that Hülkenberg had a really good result today. Number 11, moving up 2 positions, is Esteban Ocon. So you might notice that Ocon's teammate Gasly isn't here yet, but Ocon is. That being said, for Ocon, I think he was very fortunate with the red flag, which compressed the whole field together. I think it really gave him an opportunity to fight for that point that he got at the end of the Grand Prix. Kind of hurt himself with the qualifying position on Saturday, but still showed pretty good pace to the race and ended up ahead of his teammate Gasly. Now, like I've said many times before, this isn't just a result. The power rankings for just Mexico, it takes into account last 3 or 4 races. So I think all in all, that's why I would have Ocon behind his teammate Gasly, even despite today's result. Now, number 10, dropping 1 position, a driver whose pace seems to have evaporated in thin air, and that is, evaporated into thin air, is George Russell. Now, for Russell, he's been very close with Hamilton basically his entire time as teammates, and even earlier this season, I thought that the two of them were very, very evenly matched. Last 2 races in particular at Coda and then this weekend at Mexico, Hamilton's been much stronger than Russell in the races. The race pace difference is absolutely almost night and day between the two of them, and we're not really sure why. At last year's race, I believe, I wonder if it might just be a track-specific thing where, Hamilton's just very, very strong at these tracks, Coda, Mexico, whereas Russell it's not one of his favorite tracks. So it might just be one of those things, but 2 weekends in a row where Russell's been quite far off the pace of his teammate Hamilton. Now, number 9, moving up 1 position, is Pierre Gasly. I moved him up more because I felt like Russell had a really poor result and I felt that he had to move down. But for Gasly, he still had a really good result last time out in Coda. This past weekend, or I guess this morning in Mexico, wasn't so good. I think probably was negatively hurt with the red flag affecting his position. But that being said, I do think he had a pretty solid weekend. Wasn't amazing, but wasn't terrible either. Number 8, dropping 1 position, one of his worst weekends of the season. It's not on him, but still. For Fernando Alonso, basically trundling around at the back pretty much most of the Grand Prix. Let his teammate Stroll pass, was battling with Sargent, of all drivers, no disrespect to Sargent. But still for Alonso, really, really horrible race. I'll probably read something like, this morning, in a couple hours, about how the car was completely busted and there was something wrong with it. They installed the gearbox backwards or something, or they installed the floor upside down. But Anyway, for Alonso, tough weekend. Again, no points, and again he dropped a fifth in the championship. So not a great weekend for Fernando Alonso. Moving up one spot is Oscar Piastri. So for Piastri, did a pretty decent job on Saturday, out-qualified Lando Norris. And then in the Grand Prix, I think he would have been on for a pretty good result. But unfortunately, had contact with Tsunoda, probably caused some damage to his car. And that probably hurt his pace as well and caused that kind of sudden drop in pace towards the end of the Grand Prix, where his teammate Norris looked so strong. But for Piastri, it's another weekend. It's another weekend of learning a new track and learning how to manage his tires at that track. Now, number 6, dropping one position, is Carlos Sainz. So for Sainz, not a fantastic weekend, despite the fact that he qualified, despite the fact that he qualified second, finished fourth. He's always looked kind of the second of his teammate. Between him and his teammate, he's always looked like, the second best driver this weekend. So again, not a great result, especially compared to that stretch from Japan, Qatar. Well, not really Qatar, but definitely Singapore, where Sainz had a really, really strong run of form. Recently, I think it's tilting back towards Leclerc's and back in Leclerc's favor. Number 5, moving up one position, another weekend of points for Alexander Albon. So I think going into qualifying, I think Albon would have been expecting quite a bit more after the great pace that they showed in practice, but I guess it wasn't to be with the conditions on Saturday. The race was a bit better, starting about towards the back, but still Albon had a pretty good pace and got himself up to 9th place and got 2 more crucial points for Williams. Number 4. So this is a tricky one. I think between the drivers in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, I think they're very close together, but dropping 2 positions is Lando Norris. Now, for Norris, the Sunday was very good. Looked like he had excellent pace, ended up finishing in 5th place. Saturday was not so good. I haven't read about what happened on Saturday that caused him to be knocked out in Q1, which was definitely a surprise. But the reality is that Saturday result set him massively on the back foot for Sunday. I think it did cost him points. I think if he had started where Piastri started, for example, I think he could have gotten 4th, maybe even ended up on the podium. That being said, overtaking was very difficult today, so it's hard to say how far he would have been able to progress from a better starting position, but still, I do think that Norris left a bit on the table this weekend, but still really good recovery on Sunday. Number 3, moving up one position, is Charles Leclerc. So for Leclerc, really good result. Getting pole position, I think, was a bit of a surprise. Getting podium's a great result given how strong the Mercedes are, given how strong the McLaren are. So for Ferrari, getting a podium is a really good result. I think he might be a bit disappointed to lose P2 to Hamilton, but still, I think that the Mercedes race pace is so much stronger than the Ferraris that it's quite difficult to keep them behind. Now, speaking of Mercedes, moving up one spot to second on my power rankings is Lewis Hamilton. So for Hamilton, the Sundays have been excellent, 2 weekends in a row. Got himself up to 2nd place after, I think, qualifying, P6, I think. Good start, and then really good race pace on the tires, overtaking Ricciardo, overtaking Leclerc on track. I believe he got signs through the pits, but still, unfortunately didn't for him. Not really close to challenging the driver in 1st, but still a really good weekend for Hamilton. Now, in 1st place, I think, to no one's surprise, in a Red Bull sandwich of 20th and 1st with some AlphaTauri stuck in the middle, we have Max Verstappen. So, for Verstappen, new Formula 1 record, most wins in a season with 16. I think today's race was excellent start. Got himself from 3rd up to 1st. And then in the race, just controlled the pace. I was a bit surprised with him stopping so early, but it looked like he had so much pace on hand early in that hard tire stint before the red flag that he basically got himself like a free pit stop after everyone else pitted, just in those 6-7 laps where he was on the fresh tires and everyone else was on the old tires. After the red flag period, aced to start again on the new hard tires, which is easier definitely easier said than done. Just kind of drove off into the distance, drove away from Hamilton, and got the Grand Prix win was his. So another excellent weekend, extremely consistent as always, in contrast to his teammate down here, Perez. But still, yeah, excellent result. So that's all for my power rankings for the Mexican Grand Prix. Was a decently enjoyable weekend. I think not having any sprints, and I think a pretty exciting qualifying session with a bit of an unexpected result definitely helped. The racing itself wasn't great, but that's kind of to be expected from Mexico. Now, next time out, we have Brazilian Grand Prix this coming weekend. Unfortunately, it's a sprint again, so that's a lot of on-track action for me to cover. So, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.